Hello my friends, William Poloniak here again from Whole Health Foundation. In today's video I'm going to make another garden harvest juice because I have an abundance of zucchini and cucumbers, a lot of wild dandelion, and a bunch of other ingredients that I'm going to show you now. Let's take a look at my ingredients. Well, as you can see, I have zucchini here, about 8 large zucchinis, about a dozen or more cucumbers. I have 2 wild dandelion plants here. Here's a yellow squash, carrots of course, and French sorrel. And also I'm going to add about 180 grams of turmeric, 1 garlic, 1 full head of garlic, and about 150 grams of ginger. So let's start making juice, and we'll start with our greens. Now, as usual, I'm going to use my near zero blowback cutter with over 80 teeth cut into 5 blades, and my front loading feed tube that eliminates blowback. Now I'm going to put my cutter on, plug in my thermometer, and start by putting through some ice cubes to cool down the cutter and the feed tube. So let's plug in the thermometer. And I'm going to feed in 3 or 4 ice cubes. I'm going to start with my French sorrel. Now watch what a nice job this near zero cutter does. Just like a hot knife through butter. So more French sorrel. Now I want to point out that because this cutter is doing such a good job, you'll be tempted to put in more greens than you should, but don't do that. Resist the temptation. Put less greens in. Less greens is more effective. I'll put in a little bit of turmeric. I'm going to continue with my French sorrel. Now I want to point out that intermittently I'm going to feed in the cucumbers, and for 2 reasons. Of course, cucumbers are good for your hair, your skin, and your nails, but it tends to clean the shoot out as well. So more French sorrel intermittently with cucumber. Now I'm finished with my French sorrel, so I'm going to start with my wild dandelion greens. And they're very, very fibrous, so push fewer through instead of more. Clean my grit again. And continue with my yellow squash. Now you can see my bowl is very, very full, so what I'm going to do is mix this pulp and transfer some of it into a secondary container, and then continue with my carrots and the rest of my produce. This is much, much too full, a very big batch. So let's use a 4-cup container to transfer this pulp into this other container. I've only got this 1 cucumber left, and then we'll do our carrots. Now after my first 2 carrots, I usually clean the grid and continue with carrots. So let's reassemble and continue. Here's the last of my carrots. Now I want to point out one thing I really love about this front-loading feed tube, and that is that you can see in here if your produce is all shred or not. And usually you have a plug down here, and sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not. So I'm going to put in some pulp, and I'm going to force that last plug through, and then clean my feed tube, my grid and my grid holder and my cutter, mix my produce and continue. Now to mix my pulp and start making juice. We'll start with 3 scoops of pulp in each cloth, and I'm going to demonstrate my less work method, my 6-cloth less work method. We'll fold it in thirds just like they came in the package. A little crease at the back to enable the fold to be better. Pull it into as tight a package as you can and set that aside because we're going to press 2 cloths at one time. 3 scoops in each cloth. That's about a cup and a half's worth of pulp. Now these first 2 cloths are going to go into the juice tray, centered left to right, centered front to back. Make sure it's on the press plate properly, all the way back, and back it off a little bit. Now the reason you back it off is you don't want this to go up too fast. Now while that's going up, I'll fill 2 more cloths. This goes forward, this goes over. 2 more packages in the press, centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off a little bit. Now there are 2 things you can do with the spent pulp. One, if you have puddling in your bowl, which I do, you can take your spent pulp, do not throw it away, crush it up, put it in the puddle, and continue filling your cloths with pulp. And again, if you have puddling in the bowl, which I do, take the spent pulp, crush it up, put it in the puddle, and continue. And when you're on your last cloth, advance that all the way. This goes forward, that goes over, your spent cloths go on top. 2 more cloths in the tray, centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off a little bit. Now another method is not to throw the pulp away, but to put 2 scoops, not 3 scoops, on top of the already spent pulp. This is my 6-cloth less work method. Back that off. I'm going to shut the machine off because this is full, so I'm going to transfer this into bottles. But because I've got these extra containers of pulp, I'm going to put it in the collection container and mix it all again. Notice how I can use my gloves as a spatula. Keep your hands clean and create a little tool. So we'll mix this pulp up, and it looks like we have room for the 3rd container, so I'm going to put it all in here. Notice how these gloves come in so handy. And we'll mix the produce again. And I'll fill this from the backside just so the camera can get a good look. And I'm leaving 10% space for filtered or distilled water. And as I said, that is generally because for me, juice is too rich and too concentrated anyway. So this time I'm going to shut it off. This goes on top. But before this goes in the press, I'm going to set this back, but not just a little bit, a lot. I don't want this to drip in my countertop. So we'll fill more bottles. Now, as you can see, I have repackaged all of the spent pulp into 3 double packets of juice. So what I'm going to do now is flatten this down as tight as I can. I'm going to collect this pulp in a measuring beaker to see how much extra juice can we get from this batch of juice. So we'll put these 2 packets in the press. Make sure it's on the press tray properly, centered left to right, centered front to back, adjust it if need be, all the way back, back it off a little bit. And as soon as you get juice flow, advance a little bit more. And a little bit more. Now I'm going to readjust that because it looks like they're not centered properly. And we'll do that again all the way back it off a little bit. And we'll back that off. Because we've got so much pulp in this, I'm going to repackage it again. And then we'll squeeze it a second time. Centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back it off. Now my packets were so loaded with pulp that I have to repackage them again if I want to get every ounce of juice out of this produce that I picked from my garden. The only thing I didn't grow in my garden were the carrots. With the amount of carrots I go through, I need a farm. And I don't have a farm, so I buy my carrots in bags of 25-pound bags. They're called utility carrots or horse carrots at any supermarket. People buy them to feed to their animals, but they're excellent for juicing. So what I'm going to do now is put these in the press and press them a second time. Now I'm going to make sure that my packets are centered left to right, front to back, all the way back it off. So from the first pressing we got a little over 16 ounces. Let's see how much more we get. And as soon as you have traction between the cloths, advance a little more, and then all the way. So there's 18 ounces. 19. Alright, we have 20 ounces of juice so far, and my container is going to overflow. So what I'm going to do is pour it into this collection bowl and continue with my pressing. All the way back it off a little bit. When you see traction here, advance it all the way. Well, there we have another 20 ounces of juice, but my container is going to overflow. So I'm going to stop the juicer and transfer this into the collection container. And then we'll continue with our pressing. So far we got 40 more ounces of juice. Let's see how much more juice is left in that. Well, there's another 2 ounces of juice, and based on the size of my packets, I know I could repackage them again and get even more juice, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to stop here. Now, before you finish your juicing, your last step should always be to scrub the pulp off the cloths and then fold them in thirds, just like they came in the package. press the water out, and put them in a plastic bag in the freezer. You can reuse these cloths 3, maybe 4 or 5 times depending on the produce. So let's put this in the press the water out, put them in a plastic bag into the freezer. And we'll take them out of the press, put them in a plastic bag into the freezer, they'll go. Well, my friends, as you can see from this juicing session, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 29 bottles of the juice. And remember, about 2.5 of these bottles came from pressing the already pressed pulp. So we got a significant amount of extra juice by repackaging and pressing again, and we have enough for a taste test. So let's do a taste test. Well, my friends, here we have another garden harvest juice with a lot of cucumbers, a lot of zucchinis, dandelion greens, French sorrel greens, and a number of other ingredients that you saw in the earlier part of this video. Let's do a taste test. Oh, this one is delicious. Well, my friends, I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please tell a friend. If you'd like to telephone me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. I'll see you in the next video.